even bigger two-lane bridge. An even bigger two-lane bridge. Close the bridge completely, reduce the bridge loading. And it was Mr. Anea who could still recommend to the council any one of those options yet again. Well, I thought, God, here we go again. What process is this? Well, this particular bridging, as we've said, endlessly, you know, it's marvellous. It's Castlemaine's loveliest area. Please, will you save it? The one-lane bridge, possibly, as Mr. Barnes said, maybe a footbridge later in the gardens itself, very close by, will preserve this area for posterity. Yes, it's a public road. As Mr. Barnes said, we're not in the business of creating a gated community. We don't want a gated community. We want as many people as possible to enjoy this marvellous area. But public roads right throughout the state, there are thousands, probably millions of councils who restrict the roads. No left turn, no right turn, close the road, narrow the road. Why? Because sometimes other things are more important in creating a quick and easy thoroughfare. Sometimes heritage, environment, livability are far more important. So here's my question. Will you please instruct your very clever officers to come up with a one-lane bridge solution that your community want and you voted for?
Thank you, Ray. Director Anea, do you wish to comment?
I'm not sure that was exactly a question, Mr. Evans. I think it might have been a recommendation for council to consider. But I would like to just confirm that a decision on the future of the Grimsbury Bridge has not been made by council as of yet. And the consultation that is currently underway, which commenced on the 6th of May, involves key stakeholder community groups, business groups, and the wider public. And it is hoped that will be finished in the coming weeks to be able to inform future recommendations before to councillors on the future opportunities for the bridge that currently supports traffic along Fringe Road.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come?
Yeah, I'd like to comment, please. Can I just say that when council voted against the officer's recommendation and the motion to construct a two-lane bridge using federal government money at Fringe Road, across the creek there, when that motion was defeated, that did not constitute a decision of council. I repeat, that did not constitute a decision of council. It was a failure for a decision of council. A decision was not made. The vote went against it, so no decision was made. That is the council process. It has to be understood that council at this time does not have a decision on the future of the bridge. Am I correct, CEO?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Driscoll. Oh, you had your hand up, sorry. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Sally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Sally Captain, and I'm a resident in this town and also a member of the Castlemane Society Incorporated. And after the eloquence of Ian and the explanation by Mike and Ian and others, I guess what I'm really asking for is more clarification from the many comments and questions that have been asked to us through our society. Could council please explain then the current status of, we thought it was a decision taken by council in April 2021 to replace the bridge, and rather, instead of replacing the bridge, putting in place the traffic calming measures as well as implementing work to ensure the safety of the existing bridge. If council has actually moved from what we thought was a decision, can we understand why that movement has taken place and what the options are being contemplated? Right, we need clarification.
I think It's just been explained to you, sorry. It's just been explained to you that the decision made was that the two-lane bridge would not be built. That was the only decision made. Then the council asked the engineers and staff to prepare 2 or 3 other options of what we could do in that area. At no stage did we say there would be traffic calming. It was in the original discussions that there may be, that there may be a footpath built, that the bridge may be closed because of safety reasons. And currently the consultation that's happening is to investigate those options. But at no stage has council made a decision apart from not constructing a 2-lane bridge.
So,
And that was all based, well, that decision wasn't based on the funding, but the funding for the 2-lane bridge was based on an application to get federal grants. Later tonight, the current, or the next budget does have an allocation of $281,000 for projected or maybe some works to do up there. But it's not allocated to anything until these 3 options have been progressed.
Sorry, what's it called?
It's for nothing, actually. It doesn't have a purpose apart from that we put aside or plan to put aside $281,000
For the bridge.
for works around the bridge. Right, but there's no set allocation of what it's for.
so there is no movement of that bridge being.
218.
It's 218, not 81. Sorry, I just found another 70. I shouldn't.
Looking for the road calming measures.
Right.
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor Cordy.
That's not a debate.
True.
Sorry.
So, yes, Michael. Yeah, right. So you understand
I
that?
understand, and I'm heartened to hear that we are still looking at.
That is
the bridge per se.
what the next stage of the discussion is. Am I right, Director Anita?
Mr. Mayor, the consultation is currently underway to ascertain the community's perspective on what could possibly happen at the bridge, and community perspectives will inform, together with other information that officers gather from a technical perspective, recommendations that will come back to councillors for a future decision in next financial year. So the current consultation is to ascertain community perspectives on the bridge and the future of the bridge, to help inform, together with other information related to technical assessment, related to traffic measures, related to flow levels, etc., for what is to be recommended to councillors for a future decision related to what may happen.
Thank you. CEO.
Sorry, Mayor, just to be really clear for everybody about the process that council went through in that previous consideration, there was a recommendation from my staff. The decision of council was to not accept the recommendation, as opposed to any particular treatment that may or may not happen at the site. So the decision is that's not the recommendation we accept. And the work that Director and his team is doing now is to, having heard more from council, is trying to explore what are the different options that may be of interest. But there is no decision. Just want to be very, there's not a decision about what happens to that bridge in any way. It's a decision not to accept that recommendation at that time on the basis of what was provided to council.
I think everybody understands that now.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
And can we just also be clear that I think council was really keen to hear from the community. We know there is a Bridge Road Action Group. There are a lot of people who live in that area who maybe aren't members of the group, but who use the bridge. There's a wider community who use the bridge. And so I think we were interested to hear from as many people as possible who are interested in that bridge and what they think would be a good option in the future.
Yeah.
Because that's a good way to make a decision is when we heard from what the committee was. It might be all over the joint, it might be a third here, a third there, and a third the other way, but hopefully we'll get a clear message from the wider community, the immediate and then the wider, on what should happen there.
Thank you.
Interested parties.
Right, is there anyone else in the public gallery that wishes to ask a question?
This is sort of because of the answers, but I will just talk, I guess.
We just need your name.
Elise Brown. So I'm part of the Bruce Road Action Group, and I guess we did get, with the drawings that came to us about the recovery measures, we thought it was in the pipeline. It's such a dangerous road. Even tonight, one of those bikes, whenever it was low to the ground, was going around the Mary Street corner, and I didn't know whether to go and put my hazards on, or I was really concerned for the lady. And it has, I mean, in 98, I believe around that time, people in the community formed a group and they managed to get the local traffic area signs erected at either end of the road. And it would just be fantastic to restore it to that, because there's so many cars that go on that road, and it's really unsafe and loud at night especially. So I would like to ask you to really consider to put the road infrastructures through and come with the 22-23 budget.
And your question?
Will you fund them?
Not until the options.
Right, thank you. Thanks. Anybody else? Lisa? Lisa.
I'm Lisa Pollard and I live in Castlemaine. I'm not sure, any of you councillors aware of the history of this area in detail?
Yes.
What area?
Yeah. The Botanical Gardens, Burnett Road, Bridge Road area.
Yeah.
Okay, you're all well aware of it. Just for those who aren't aware, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief overview of the history of this area and why this precinct of Castlemaine is such a special area, along with the historical value, the natural flora and fauna. In 1855, the area along Barker's Creek was described as surpassing loveliness, which is that era. Marjorie Theobald, who is the author of Accidental Town, published 2020. Burnett Road, immediately to the north of the Botanical Gardens, is a remarkably intact precinct of superior homes. Photos taken in early days indicate very little change to the precinct since 1870s. On the 8th of the 470, Mount Alexander Mail Borough Minutes, inhabitants of Froomes Road asking for a bridge over the creek leading to the Dawes Cricket Ground. The cricket ground is Wattle Flat Cricket Ground, now the Pony Club. 1862, the Wattle Flat Cricket Ground location was the location of the England 11s and local Castlemaine 22 game, with Castlemaine team victorious. This tour was the start of the Ashes. Quite amazing to have a match played in Castlemaine.
Lisa, a question?
Yeah, I'm coming to a bill. We've got 3 minutes, haven't we?
Well, we want a question.
Yeah. 10th of the 1st, 71, Public Works reported plans for Dawes Road Bridge lay on the table and erection proceeded with as early as possible. June 1873, advertisements published in the papers. Building of the bridge started in 1873 and was completed in late August 74. The stone buttresses in situ today are consistent with the design on the original plans and mentioned in Inspector Angus Cornish's report dated October 74. The timber hand railings being replaced, of course. 28/11/73, bridge work started and was built by James Ross and prisoners from the jail assigned to hard labour on the roads for punishment. The stone used for buttresses was local Castlemaine stone, and T. Jones was the mason. It was carted in by horse and dray, so it would have been a pretty hard slog in that era. January 74, Borough Gardener Mr. Doran reported temporary gates under Dawes Bridge had been carried away by the flood. Cattle now had free access to the Botanical Gardens. 11 September 74, Borough Gardener makes alterations to the southeastern angle of the Botanical Gardens fence. National Trust Victoria Heritage Register has 4 homes registered, and Alexander Shire Council Planning Scheme Schedule to Heritage Overlay has more than 8 significant areas on their overlay register, and recently implemented a conservation management plan for the Botanical Gardens. Dawes Hotel, built 1859, Rosebank 1859 for the Stone Cottage, 1860 for the main house, Clontarf 1862 to 63, Forest Hall 1867. And I'm not sure if you realise Forest Hall was William Bridges' house. He was also part of the Castlemaine 22 team. He was also a mayor and councillor for many, many years. Following his death, the Clontarf was tenanted in 1886 to Presbyterian minister J.W. Lawson and his family, which included Harry H.S.W. Lawson, who became Premier of Victoria 1918 to 24. Claremont Coach House, constructed 1857 and purchased by William Steig, who was a miner, of course, and had a Dreyfus in Market Square and founding member of Castlemaine Bowling Club. Pine Hill, 1863 to 64, and Augustus Yandel, who was a bit of a sort of dubious character, it seemed like. It was also a miner, successful miner, builder, herbalist, councillor and mayor for many years, 77 to 1889. The Castlemaine Botanical Gardens, I think we all are well aware of the history of the Castlemaine Botanical Gardens. Burnett Road and environs, Woodlands, constructed 1860, was A. Price, J. Myring and Bollertons. Chester Cottage, 1860 to 69, the Odges Road Cottage. Whilst the focus of society today may not be interested in European settlement of the Shire, from 1854 Canvas Tent Town and the prosperity of Gold Rush era evident, no one can deny the foresight of prominent Castlemaine citizens during this period and a major part of Castlemaine's history, contributing, shaping the layout of the town, streetscapes and services we all know, love and enjoy today. The bridge may not meet current bridge building standards, style, codes of this era, but it has survived well for over 150 years. Castlemaine has many historical bridges on various registers, and council has identified that as overlay. And they're not built by today's standards. But would the council dream of demolishing those? And even this building we're standing in, the town hall, the post office, all those buildings, we would hope that you would not consider that appropriate. And I'll just quote Mayor Tony Cordy's comment in 20th of April 2021, heritage is taken away one piece at a time is so appropriate. Will the current council staff and councillors of today become renowned for taking away another piece of local heritage and building a new bridge discordant with the area, or decide the heritage bridge is worth restoring and maintaining? We certainly hope it is the latter rather than choice. And can I just ask, I know Bill spoke before about there was no recommendation. In the June meeting of council in 2021, in addressing the petition from FRAG, there were actually 3 recommendations. And one of them was to have a look at the options, and Bill's comments were that we would look at fixing the bridge and making it safe. So that's why we were all under the impression that the bridge would be fixed up so that it was, safe and not looked at being replaced. And I'm finished. Is that okay, Bill?
Yeah, you've probably had about 8 minutes, but.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you very much.
And just thanks, one for the history lesson.
You can read Marjorie Theobald's book. And
The second, your last comment about making it safer or doing something to the bridge is what the consultation is now about. We made a decision of not to build a 2-lane bridge. Well, we made a decision not to make.
You didn't, Christine, but some of the other councillors did.
Anyway.
I'm not council.
We move on.
Anyway, more to the point, council is at the moment doing community consultation of about 3 or whatever options And we will come to a conclusion as we do that. And one of them may be to shut the bridge to make it safe for the area. One of them may be to fix it up, but that's a matter of time and discussion in the community, as well as eventually here at the council table.
Sorry, and I know I'm taking up extra time. So with the market building, that's considered heritage. You wouldn't consider that would be shut or closed to the public because of its heritage value to the town. Why would the bridge be any different?
Well, it depends on there's chalk and cheese. The market building was saved back in the 60s.
It was in 1946, actually, Miss Brotherton was involved in it, and again in 1971. Sorry, Bill.
I'm happy you just said that actually for another reason.
Yeah, because there's a bus screen before. Sorry,
No. All right, that's two different issues. One is a safety issue. The market building isn't unsafe, and one's a bridge and one's a building in the centre of town. But that said, nobody's saying we're going to demolish the bridge.
So is council agreed they're not demolishing the bridge?
No. At least we're giving you a fair stake.
Yeah, I know you have. You've been very reasonable.
So all you have to do is be patient and let staff and the council do the consultation with the community, and that's when the community needs to put their input in, one way or another, and we will come up with a report that will make recommendations.
Thank
Thank you.
you for your time.
Anybody else with a question? Different issue?
Less than 3 minutes. Same name, and Mr. Mayor, this is about another piece of history and something I witnessed today that I found devastating. It was the removal or the dismembering really of the 100-year-old plus magnificent Eucalyptus globulus, a huge tree with a huge canopy situated along Greenhill Avenue, which is bordered by the tennis club, Castlemate Tennis Club, on one side and Forest Creek on the other. Does council see as an absolute priority the need to protect large trees in the public domain that provide so much benefit in so many ways to our fragile ecosystem? On the Shire website, under the trees and vegetation section, it states that council's tree management policy aims to conserve and improve tree cover, understory and general landscaping around the Shire and to protect public safety. Is this statement the extent of the policy, and does it reflect truly the detail and real commitment that we have to maintaining, or the council has to maintaining significant trees? I am aware that DELP have jurisdiction of this particular site where the tree is, but they have been consulting with council on the issue of the effect of the roots on the bluestone footings on Forest Creek. I would hope that with a strong policy, council would explore every option before that tree was finally decided to be brought down, as it was today. I actually still feel quite emotional about that tree. And I guess my real question is, how can we stop similar things happening again? There are so few of these trees in our Shire.
Director Anita.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Captain, for the question. I have to take the particular details of this issue on notice. However, I can confirm that in line with the policy statement you made today, that the office can take the natural vegetation of the Shire with the utmost importance to maintain it for the livability of all citizens within the Shire. But I'll take the question related to this particular tree and the management of the area in which the tree is on notice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Anybody else? No. Right, so I'd like to move standing orders be resumed. Yeah, that's right, Woody. Seconded, move Councillor Anderson, second Councillor Cordy. All those in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attendance, people in the gallery. That would then take us to petitions and letters, and there is none apart from the council. Acknowledges the petition from Malden Focus Swimming Pool Committee and notes have been treated as a submission to proposed budget, and will be dealt with that item 91111 of this agenda. Somebody would like to move that recommendation? Councillor McClure, second up. Councillor Henderson. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Reports. The North Central Goldfields Library. Councillor Anea.
I'd like to move the recommendation as printed, please.
Second up. Councillor Cordy. Comment?
Yeah.
Councillor Anea.
All right, so unfortunately I wasn't able to attend the meeting of the North Central Goldfields Regional Library Board that is included in this report. But I keep up pretty well with library goings on because you know I do love the library. And I know that as usual, everyone's doing great work. I guess I'll just talk to a couple of things that have happened at the Castlemaine Library in the last month or so that I thought were pretty special. So one, which I wasn't able to attend, was on the 1st of June, and this was the opening of the Tamaya Long Room at the Castlemaine Library. And there's a Welcome to Country by Uncle Rick, who also gifted the word to the library. It means quiet in Jara language, and it's quite a lovely space. So it can be booked out for meetings. There's all AV functions, so you can have a Zoom meeting in there. You can just have quiet time. And it also opens up to just be part of the library. I was also able to get along to National Simultaneous Story Time, which is on the 25th of May. Some of you will remember that I got to read the story last year, and it was a highlight for me, so I was very keen to see the story this year. It was a reading of a book called Family Tree by Josh Pike and Renaud Joy Gosh, and the kids who were there seemed to really enjoy it. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is that all the libraries in the Goldfield Libraries Network are bringing in a new children's library card, and they've run a designing contest for those cards, of which they received over 200 entries, which they've whittled down to 5 in the 5 to 8 category and 5 in the 9 to 12 category. Voting for those cards closes tomorrow. Pretty exciting. And that's my report on the library.
Thank you, Councillor Anea. Any questions? Those in Councillor Cordy.
I see in the library or Castlemaine Library report, there's a picture where Robin Neer went to our audience. Is that a typo or is that another Neer?
Unlike our director sitting just behind me, I am related to this Ania, but she's my mother, and she always captivates her audience, and that's where I get it from.
Thank you.
There you go. On the fly. All those in favour of the recommendation? Carried. 911, the adoption of the 2022-2023 budget. Someone like to move, Councillor Anea, the recommendation as printed.
I'll just quickly read the executive summary. Having prepared and publicly displayed the proposed budget 2022-2023 and having received and heard from submitters and considered all the submissions received, Council is now able to consider the formal adoption of the budget 2022-2023. And I would like to move the recommendation as printed, please, Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Henderson. Any discussion? Councillor Anea.
All right. So I was commenting just before the meeting how I felt like it was only not very long ago that we did last year's budget. And I'm told that is pretty normal. Budget comes around quickly. I think also we worked on it for quite a while. This is one of the things that, you know, takes a long time for us to get the way that we want it to be. And it's really hard work. I find budget time very stressful because we have a finite amount of money and we have to make sure that we kind of get it right if we can. And obviously everyone is going to think that different things are the right thing. to be put in the budget. And so we have to really work together as a team to try and make it work for the council, for our council. And it can be challenging, but as with last year, I found the process quite satisfying in that we were able to work as a team, which is always nice. I think that's always a nice feeling. It's a pretty big achievement, I think, when we get budget together. And I'm always really impressed as well. One of my favourite things is when the public submissions come in and we get the special meeting where people from the public can come and speak to their submission. I think that meeting was a month-ish ago, and it's really nice. It was nice last year as well because we get to hear people not coming in to tell us that we've done something wrong or we're not doing well enough or, you know, we're just pretty bad at everything, which is what we get an awful lot of the time. But we get people coming in saying, this is something that I am passionate about in my community. This is something that is going to make the lives of people in my community better. Please will you consider giving us some money towards it? And it's actually a really uplifting thing because after that we sit down and we try and get as many people as those submissions as we can in because it's important. People who come and speak to us and are polite and passionate and really, you know, just excited about it. It's something different for us, and it really makes us want to go the extra mile and try and include the projects that we think will really serve the community well. I was really pleased at how many of those public submissions we were able to fund this year, as well as the budget that we came up with. Like I said, it's really hard work for all of us, I think, and especially for the staff who always do a fantastic job, even when we do things that they do not see coming sometimes. But yeah, I'm really pleased that we're here again and that we managed to work as a team so far.
Thank you, Councillor Neer. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to reiterate Councillor Denier's comments also, I just want to thank all staff. It's a lot of hard work and the executive to go through the budget process. And I want to thank my fellow councillors to have a debate, quite pushy debate at times, but we did it in a respectful way, which I think is a fabulous thing. And also that the community feedback is great. So when there is a chance in this process to do community feedback, then I really think people should do that because we do respond when we can. And I think there was 8 to 10 initiatives that came from the public that we're able to put in. So it's a wonderful thing. Now the surplus there is a surplus of $70,000. It's not as much as I wanted, but you know, that's the way it is. But at least we're going into this budget with a surplus, which is a good thing. And this, once again, I think it's a good process. It's a thorough process that we go through. And so well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Driscoll. And I just say, I think the debate. Oh, Councillor Henderson, sorry.
Thank you. Because I will, of course,
I wasn't playing.
all supporting, but I just want to put a little flag on my favourites in the capital works that's proposed in this budget. And the first, of course, we've got a new website. I've been whinging about the website. Who doesn't whinge about their corporate website? I've got a lot of trust in our current team to put together something good. But my very favourite, and the reason that I actually came back on council one more time, is to get the crossing of the Loddon at Vaughan. And I'm very, very, very happy to say that there is over $1 million for not a bridge. Unfortunately, that's going to be too much expense, but a crossing. Hopefully, for 90% of the time, good solid crossing of the Loddon at Vaughan, and to reinstate what's been missing for now almost a decade. And I think that's a great thing. We've also got 4 levies in Castle Lane and Cabot Creek, if that's multi-work. That's going to actually start after many years of community consultation. But you still see things, letters to the paper, anxiety. Oh, wait a minute, we haven't been consulted. I tell you what, we've been consulted to death. The people who are actually going to be impacted by it have had much conversation run by the catchment management authority. And also we're going to do part of the redevelopment of Frederick Street. I know there's a lot of doubt in certain sectors of the community whether we can do anything about Frederick Street. I think it's going to be a winner. I think once we start with that funny little back street, which is used so much by people commuting Hamilton to Moston, walking. And that I think it's going to be a great bridge to the town there. And we're going to start works on the Teuton Church, yes. Thank you, so they're my picks. Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to comment? Councillor Corbett.
Thanks for that, Mayor. Look, I just want to acknowledge again the work of our finance team and also all the managers of council, the councillors as well. It's a huge amount of work to put together a budget. I've mentioned previously, but it's certainly it's a real pleasure to work in an organisation that is well managed financially. Council is in sound shape financially, and we're doing lots of good work in the community. Picking up on Councillor Near's comment, we had the submissions to the budget. We've listened to those and looked at them, and there are a few changes in there. So it's really a robust process and fantastic debate. I'll just note, when this budget is adopted, it will be a decision of council. But right above the Vaughan to Realtor low level crossing in the budget documents is Froomes Road Bridge, $218,000, and it's not for a replacement bridge, but it will cover investigative works and urgent maintenance that may be required to keep the bridge safe. So it's not the intention of council to replace the bridge, and so this is a decision of council. Once this is adopted, that there is $218,000 for maintenance work for Froomes Road Bridge. Thank you.
It's probably a bit more than maintenance work, it's investigation of maintenance work, councillor Gordon. Right, Director O'Neill.
Let's move on, Mayor.
Let's move on. Councillor
Make a comment.
you can make a comment.
Just my special interest area, and I'm pleased to see the industrial land strategy done up with $100,000 put towards that. And certainly one of my passions in the last 12 months. I'm pleased to see that. Congratulations to the staff, fellow councillors. It was a good process to be part of, and it was good that we came to a good conclusion. You know, some of the stuff that we got out of public submissions, which we were pleased to support, like the VMX Park and James Park shade structure, some more money for weed management. These are all submissions that came out of the public. We listened to them, and I think respectfully put some money to this, and I was pleased to see that. So thank you, Lisa, if you could pass on to the team. Congratulations, because it was a good effort.
Thanks, Councillor McClure. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to comment?
I might as well.
That's probably true.
Well, I think everyone's probably said probably a lot of what I wanted to say. Obviously acknowledge Lisa, Caroline, and Robin. That was Robin's name. A lot of work and a lot of effort. And as Rosie says, it starts soon again for next year's, and that's not. But also, obviously, with fellow councillors, other people have picked it up. We had the ability to debate and argue stuff. We don't fall out and we get on with it. And I think that's a really good thing. Obviously, for me, Bill Woodfall's in there, Fogarty Gaps Road's in there, and Long Street's actually finalised. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm happy to see Christmas decorations might happen.
Thanks,
I'd like to see that. But I do also obviously the community representation. So Malvern Pool's obviously made a submission, which there's a review of the pool facilities, and hopefully we can see some movement there. And I know some Malvern kids did a little video on 180 Pump Track Skate Park. So we're going to have a review of skate parks and maybe something back in the future too, so that'd be good. Yeah, good budget again.
Thank you. So in general terms, councillors, we have a good budget that's been worked on by staff and councillors, and Councillor Driscoll, I would have suggested the debate was vigorous, not pushing. But more importantly, everybody contributed, and I think we all agree that we've come up with a fairly good result. And as Councillor McClure said, many organisations who have genuinely asked for some assistance, and we have acknowledged that that work needs to be done eventually in some cases, it will start to happen. And I think that's one of the roles that we as the council play, to spread it to the most important parts of the community as we can and correct some things as we go along. Or, Rosie, you have a right of reply if you wish to close the vote.
I will. Yeah, we did a good job. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with where we landed. I don't know. I think pushing perhaps was the right word, as Councillor just said, but you know, semantics. I'm pretty happy with where we ended up.
Thank you. It depends on which dictionary you're reading, right? Read. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Keep going. Will now take us to 9.2 community, the appointment of new community asset committee members.
That's 9.12, sorry.
Oh, on this one. On that. Oh, sorry. 9.1.2, the 2022-2032 financial plan. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Val. I'll introduce this. So the 10-year financial plan adopted in April 2021 details the financial resources required to deliver the activities that Council proposes to undertake over the short, medium and long term. The plan will guide future strategies and actions of Council to ensure that the organisation continues to operate in a financially sustainable manner. I'd like to recommend that the Council adopts the updated financial plan 2022 to 2032.
Thank you. Second, Councillor McClure. Any discussion? Councillor Driscoll.
As I mentioned, this version of the plan extends the plan out to an additional year to 2032 using updated financial information and forecasts. It contains more up-to-date financial information, but the format and context of the document has not changed from the initial 2021 plan. Planning for the long-term financial sustainability will help ensure that Council remains financially viable in the medium to long term. Council can reliably deliver the works and services required by our community and maintain our assets at appropriate levels, and they are renewed, upgraded or replaced as planned. Current ratepayers are funding the works and services they consume now and are not burdening future ratepayers at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor McClure.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight one of the issues that was raised in this document that does concern me in some ways. The comment that Council operates in an environment where over 60% of its income is subject to capping, set according to the Fair Goes rate system. In contrast, Council's expenditure can increase at a rate greater than that set by the Fair Go Commission. While Council has adapted and continues to adapt to this operating environment, finding operational savings is becoming more challenging. Eventually, it is probable that Council will need to review the service levels and service delivery models offered to ensure future financial sustainability. I think there's going to be some hard, interesting decisions to be made by this Council sometime in the near future about how we respond to rate capping and increases in costs and prices, particularly what we've been seeing, at least in the last 12 months, the increase in inflation and all the rest of it. But our services are only going to go in one direction, and that's downwards, unless we can consider how we're going to respond to this situation. It's an interesting point. I just wanted to raise it. I think at some stage we've got some difficult decisions to make. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Any other comment? All right. Councillor Driscoll, you don't want to close the meeting? Right. All in favour? Against, carried. That then takes us to 9.2.1. Which is the appointment of new Community Asset Committee members. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor Mockley. I'll introduce this one. So this appointment of new Community Assets Committee members. In accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, at the special meeting of Queensland Council on the 1st of September 2020, Council established Community Asset Committees and appointed members to these committees. Member terms for these Community Asset Committees are valid for 2 years. As a result, the committees which we'll adopt shortly are required to hopefully appoint members for the next 2 years. These committees have notified Council of changes to their members following their annual general meetings, and the purpose of this report is to seek approval to the updated memberships. I'd like to move that Council appoints members to the committees and revokes memberships of retiring members as printed in the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Councillor Anea. Any discussion? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 20 of these committees and they're very important in my opinion, and I want to thank all those members who turn up and govern on these committees. I have 4 or 5 in my area and I go to them as much as I can, and I can tell you from my perspective that they do a great job and they're really passionate. So I'm sure the other committees that haven't gone to are doing the same. So I want to thank those members. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favour of the recommendation? Oh, sorry.
I just point out that this is a bit of a procedural thing. I think it's important. It's a requirement of the new Local Government Act that we do, that we appoint these people by this date, is that correct? On 21st of June, winter solstice. For 2 years. However, we do understand that in some cases there will be people retiring and new people coming on. And it's great actually to see that there are new members in some of these committees, but things will change, and as they do, so those individual committees that need to be updated will be coming back to council for reappointment. Is that correct, Stephen?
That's correct. The process will be followed
It's
as.
not set in stone then. It's not the case. People have to stay there for the next 2 years.
No, if somebody retires or vacates their position, a new person can be appointed, and we as the council will approve that as a by-election, but that's not the right word, but something similar. A new committee member for the period that's left of that 2-year period. Councillor Anea, do you wish to make a comment?
I guess, just reiterating what's been said, the people who sit on these committees are volunteers. I sit on a couple of community asset committees outside of council. And it can be a hard slog sometimes when you don't want to go out in the cold and you have to go to a community asset meeting. But I mean, if people didn't do it, these assets would just fall into disuse and disrepair. So we kind of need people to keep stepping up and doing it. Especially some younger people in there would be great, because I would say there's an ageing cohort and we need to get some new people in there. I'm really happy to see on the, which one is it? On the Wesley Hill Soldiers Memorial Committee, a couple of young keen basketballers who I know have put their hands up. So I think that's a step in the right direction. Everyone should have a go at least once.
Thank you. Anyone else? Those in favour of the motion? Those against? Carried. 9.3, their environment. 9.31, Amendment C94 MALX, Plan Harcourt. Consideration of submissions. Councillor Porty.
Thanks for that, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to enable council to consider all submissions made following the exhibition of planning scheme amendment C94 MALX, and to consider options available to council under the Planning Environment Act 1987 to address them. Amendment C94 MALX is a council proposed amendment to implement the recommendations of Plan Harcourt 2020 by incorporating planning policy into the Mount Alexander Planning Scheme, including the Harcourt Framework Plan. The report recommends that Council endorse changes to the amendment document as recommended by the Strategic Planning Unit and requests the Minister for Planning appoint an independent planning panel to consider submissions to the amendment. Okay, so I think that's enough. There's a little bit more explanation, and if it's okay, Mayor, I'd move the motion as printed. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Gardner. Any discussion? Councillor Gordy.
We've been working on this on Plan Harcourt and this amendment to the planning scheme for a number of years now, and I'd like to congratulate the planners and staff that have worked on it. The level of consultation with the public, or the amount of consultation with the public, and the submissions we've received from the public is fantastic, and all sorts of feedback, you know, from talking about flora and fauna to talking about farmers that want to subdivide their farms in or get residential status on their farms so they can subdivide and make lots of money, all those sort of things, but huge amount of interest from the community. And the purpose of this panel will be to further flesh out those, because some of the things still need a little bit of fine tuning. So the panel will further discuss that with the community and with the ultimate aim of making a recommendation to the Minister and the Council. Just a question, CEO, will it come from the panel, will go to the Minister, or will come back?
Director Anita. Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Cody, the results of the panel will come back to Council. Before going to the next.
Yeah, thanks for that. But, again, I can't state enough, but just my appreciation for the staff that worked on this. It's an excellent document, and yeah, great amount of feedback from the community. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Stephen? No? Gary?
I just wanted to support Councillor Cordy's motion comments. It's great. It's a good document. There's been an incredible amount of work put into this scheme, and it's a good document. And I had quite a number of people contact me in relation to, you know, some concerns that they had, and I know that they have been addressed somewhat. And you know, when they had 24 submissions, I thought it was a good result to have that many submissions into a plan like that. I thought that's a good outcome. I still do have concerns about zone boundaries, and I've made my position with that, I think, well known, and I hope at some stage some work is done to do something about defining them fairly accurately so that there's no confusion there on the track, because I've had experience with that in the past. So I would urge some thought to give it to that matter, but it is a good document, and I thank the staff for the work.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Once again, I also want to reiterate what other councillors said, that thank the statutory department for that, but I also want to point out that through this, in terms of what the public had a chance to say and put forward, and I think council's been very transparent in this, is that I just want to read out some of the things that's actually happened. We put a notice in the Victorian Government Gazette. We wrote letters to authorities including Delwar Heritage, Victoria National Trust, Jar Jar Rung Lands Corporation, letters to prescribed ministers, letters to affected property owners and landowners, inclusion in the council column in Inland Express and Harcourt Call. They've had community drop-in sessions at the Twilight Market at the A&A Hall in Harcourt, meeting in council chambers with the Harcourt Progress Association, phone calls, emails, inquiries, and sessions have all been held and also update Plan Harcourt on the website. So there's been a lot of transparency here, a lot of engagement with the community, which I think is a great thing, and I just wanted to reiterate that point.
Thanks, councillor Driscoll. Anyone else? All right, those in favour? Against, carried. Brings us to 9.32, Amendment C96 MALX, Holden Design Guidelines, consideration of panel report recommendations and adoption. Make a more time for presentation and custom.
That's all right.
That's fine.
Brief.
Somebody like to, councillor Gardner.
Yeah, that'd be me. The purpose of the report is to enable council to consider recommendations of the independent planning panel that have heard submissions in relation to this amendment and how to proceed. At this stage, council must consider whether to adopt the panel's recommendations in full or in part, and request the Minister for Planning to approve the amendment or abandon the amendment. Amendment C96 MALX is a council proposed amendment to incorporate the updated model design guidelines into the Mount Alexander planning scheme. Planning reports recommends amendment C96 MALX should proceed subject to addressing the panel's recommendations, and I would like to move it recommended as printed.
Thank you. Seconder, councillor McClure. Any discussion? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Once again, I just won't last us.
Oh, sorry, councillor Gardner.
That's all right.
I'm not going to let you in.
Most councils will be aware of this. So this approach actually started a few years ago, and obviously did involve a local steering group of local heritage people who have supported this process. Essentially, what it's aimed to do is to update the old design guidelines, which were formed in the early 70s, and obviously over time things have changed. So these council then adopted guidelines, and obviously it had to go to a panel arrangement. And subsequent to that, some people have made suggestions. There are 8 submitters, I think, and although their suggestions have been incorporated into these guidelines, so it should go back now to the Minister for endorsement. Personally, I think is finalised and happened is really great. The old design guidelines really could be a bit confusing and difficult, so I feel that these design guidelines should be clearer, and obviously it gives people a bit more certainty in terms of what they can and can't do, and it makes it easier. So yeah, I recommend as printed to my fellow councillors.
Councillor McClure. Yeah. Are you right? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate, as per the last motion, thank the Statutory Planning Department, and also this was spread widely so community members could say many opportunities what they felt. So I think that's transparent. I think I just want to say that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor Cordy?
Thanks for that, Mayor. Look, this document's a great document. There's a huge amount of work gone into it. Doesn't mean that all the planning issues in Malden will all be sorted out. But what it does mean is it will give people a really good starting point to see what's going to be looked on favourably and what's not. And I'd like to commend the people that put the document together and the team, as Stephen mentioned, and worked on it, because I think it's a fantastic document and a credit to all involved. So well done. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Cordy. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Matt. Well, I've got it myself, but I know the old guidelines. I remember Mika when the what was it, Bendigo Bank building, ended up to be it had quite an interesting design. VCAT was scathing in their comments of council's mold design guidelines. They said, they basically said, you've got to go with this something right. So council, to their credit, picked up and have come up with these things. And I have to give also good credit to, I think, my fellow councillor here has done a lot of work in chairing the committee. I dare call them the Mold and Heritage Police, and I don't think they might be happy with that. They are a passionate group of people, or group of passionate people, who are very concerned and protective of moral and scenic heritage. So, and I think I'm reading here the summary of the planning panel's comments, and this is independent planning panels have nothing to do with council. We have to pay a lot of money to ask for them to be appointed.
Only 6 million.
Yes, and a lot of they come and they cost us a lot of money, and they hear all the issues, and they know their planning law very well. And they have said in their report, the planning panel acknowledged and commended the work undertaken by council in preparing a review and update of the mold and design guidelines. The panel noted that the guidelines are comprehensive, unlike the other ones, informative, well set out, and easy to read, containing useful photographs and example illustrations supporting particular guidelines. They are also informed more readily enables future reviews to responding to emerging design issues without wholesale documentation. That's a pretty rare bit of complimentary comment from that planning panel. So full marks to everyone playing, which is fantastic. And so now I think we're saying, are we actually at the point where we're saying we accept the recommendations of the planning panel and we're sending it off to the minister? So that's pretty great.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. 9.4, the economy, and 9.41, revenue and ratings plan. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll introduce this, the Revenue and Rating Plan. The Local Government Act 2020 requires council to adopt a revenue and rating plan following a general election. The Revenue Rating Plan was adopted at the meeting of council on the 15th of June 2021. As per agreed next steps, an annual review has been undertaken since, which incorporates updates from the adoption of the rating strategy December 2021. This plan outlines council's approach to raising revenues for the next 4 years, including a detailed description of how council levies rates and charges. I'd like therefore to move that council adopts the updated revenue and rating plan.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Cordy. Discussion. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. As I said, the revenue rating plan is a requirement of the Local Government Act. And the plan aims to provide a medium-term plan for how council will generate income to finance the strategic objectives in the council plan, programs, services, capital works commitments, as well as contribute towards the ongoing financial sustainability of the organisation. The plan explains how council calculates the revenue needed to fund its activities and how the funding burden will be apportioned between ratepayers and other uses of council facilities, services and facilities. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Cordy.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just note in relation to the rating formula that council uses is rates are based on capital improved value, and these days property valuations are done annually, and what ratepayers will see is, depending on how the values in their area have fluctuated relative to other areas, will depend. Some ratepayers might see an increase, some might see a decrease, but under the fair go rate system, the amount that council raises through rates is subject to the capping. So there'll be some pluses and minuses, but I think if people, when they get their rate notices, if they have concerns, certainly discuss it with with council officers, but yeah, it's the fluctuations people see in their rates, not always, there's only a small adjustment in terms of the rate cap, but how those variations in rating happen is in relation to changes in valuations, and certainly we've seen in Mount Alexander Shire, we've seen property prices going all over the place in recent couple of years. So yeah, for anyone that has concerns, I think take it up with our officers who are expert on the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, those in favour of the motion? Against, carried. 1.42, annual plan 2021-2022 quarter 3 progress report. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Madam. So this is simply the quarter 3 report of the 2021-22 annual plan, which is to the end of March 2022, to provide councillors and everyone else with an update on the projects in the 2021-2022 annual plan.
Second up.
Oh, yeah, sorry, move that we vote.
Thanks. Second, Councillor McClure. Any comments?
I think it's worth noting that as we sit here at the end of quarter 4, it takes a while to put these things together. And so we're recording on quarter 3, where it does say that quite a few things are commenced or in progress. I'm very pleased to see just about everything that we said we do. Obviously, that's in our plans for this year, but it has actually been completed. So I think the full marks to our staff for getting on and doing the job. I suppose the next thing we'll be seeing is the next annual plan for next year, which will, of course, will come out of what we have prioritised in our budget. So I look forward to seeing that coming out soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Any other councillor wish to comment? All those in favour of the motion then? Against? Carried. Takes us to item 10, delegates' reports. Any councillor have a delegate's report? Councillor Anita.
Right. So I had a more exciting than usual month probably, because for some of that time, I think it was only last month, but for some of that time, of course, the mayor was unwell. And because I'm deputy mayor, I was able to step up and do some things that I hadn't done before. So one of the exciting things that I did was a citizenship ceremony. And that was really lovely. It was one of the nicest things that I've done in my councillor role. I made 3 residents Australian citizens, including a man who'd been here, longer than I've been alive. It's really special. It was a really lovely day to share with these people and their families. So while I'm upset that you were unwell, it was lovely to be there in your stead and be able to do that. I was also able to give a speech at Sorry Day, which was quite powerful. I think I was very anxious about it because it can be such a sensitive area, and you really kind of want to get it right. I spent a lot of time prior working with Kath Koff, CEO of Naldarum, and her help and support was invaluable. So I want to say a big thank you to Kath. On the day, Uncle Rick did the Lavender Country, and there was a bit of fire and a smoking ceremony, and then I had a bit of a chat. And then Uncle Ron Murray did a speech and told a lovely Dreamtime story and did some music on the didgeridoo with his partner accompanying him. I saw them play last year. They're very special together. And it was a really nice day. It was freezing. It was just utterly cold. And I don't usually get very cold, but even I was like, better put a jacket on. But the crowd that turned out with just so much openness and love in their hearts for the day was really impressive. It was really special, and I'm really thankful that I was able to be a part of it. The other thing I did recently, which I enjoyed quite a lot, was only on the weekend. just over here in what was the village square. I attended the farewell celebration. Only the first bit though, because I had my kids with me and they weren't really into it. But we stayed for a bit. Yeah, the speeches they found tricky, but so it was lovely. I was really enjoying it. Uncle Rick again did a beautiful welcome to country, and I made them go and smoke themselves. I smoked themselves on my feet. Darren obviously did a good job of speaking. And then, but I was losing the kids. The kids were like, "We want to go. What are we doing? Yeah, let's go to the pub and have dinner," which is what we were doing next. But then a lady stepped out with a hoop, and she set it on fire. And just like that, the kids were back on board. So, and you know, I'm just a big kid really. We just sat there and I was like, this is amazing. And there was music, and after she ate some fire and put the fire out, it was incredible. We followed a procession of torches up to the feed. But parked in the way was a submarine, which again, the kids were like, watch, this is amazing. So we had a little peek inside, but then we had to leave. So I'm hoping that anyone else who was there, I think you, Darren, will tell me more about what happened later that night. And the last one, not really council related, but just a good time for everyone. Not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, I went to the Main game, which is I guess it's the main fundraiser for Main FM, but it's also just a great day and in my top 3 events in Castlemaine that I enjoy going to with my kids, I guess. So after a 2-year break, the Rockatoos and the Radio Galas went head to head in a day of family, fun and footy. And, you know, I like all of those things. So it was a great day. And, you know, there was something very different about watching community football right there, especially when there's people that you know on the ground and you can kind of yell at them a bit and heckle. I just loved it. The Rockatoos scored their first win this year, so that was pretty special for them, and we all had a really great day. It's also just beautiful to see the camp being used, you know, by more of the community than just the general football and netball crowd. There was a big alternative kind of crowd there as well, and some very heavy metal music at halftime. So it was very exciting, and that's my update.
Thanks, Councillor Anita, and thank you for filling in for those couple of jobs. I actually was a little disappointed I couldn't go to the citizenship because my friend Manuel Halalakis, the fruit shop man in Mosman Street, who's probably been in Australia for 40 odd years at least, 48 years, so it's been naturalised that he was appreciative of what happened anyway, because the family have told me, so that's good. Righto. Nobody else with a report? CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. Usual list circulated for everybody's information, recognising, of course, Mayor wasn't about quite a bit this month as well, so I'll play this one. First of all, just may I say thank you again to you, all of the staff, for your work on the budget as well. It is a really tough process for you to have to work through, and everybody at IDs are great. I think as Councillor Neil was saying, there's lots of really good things that you'd love to support, but you can't do everything, and we really appreciate the way that you work through that as well, and you work through it with us. It's good, clear direction along the way on what you wanted us to do as each thing came up. So just a big thank you to all of you, and likewise thank you very much for your appreciation for the work of Director Knight and Carolyn Ross and Robin Schultz and Director Ania's team as well, and all of the managers and many other staff in the organisation who do a lot of work in the background that you then consider. Really appreciate you knowing that and giving your appreciation as well. Just a couple out of the list that I'll pick out. The meeting that's there that's listed with Regional Development Victoria dealt Jar Jar around and local residents talking about that possibility of doing something at Lala Gower as part of the Commonwealth Games, so hosting potentially a mountain bike event. First of all, thank you to Nick Byrne, who's that local resident that's on that list there. He's a consultant, he's a local resident, he's a passionate bike rider, and he's on the committee that looks after the Lala Gower site And he's done a lot of the work, to put together that submission, and has, on behalf of our organisation and on behalf of Jar Jar Rum, Rodney Carter himself will be signing that application that goes, or expression of interest that will go to government for their consideration on Wallumbagara as a possible site for a sport that is not yet in the Commonwealth Games. So we'll see how all of that goes. There's lots of ifs, buts and maybes in there, but you don't know if you don't put your hand up. So we'll be doing that very soon. But thanks to everybody for that, their work in that support from the other groups. A couple of others I thought worth mentioning, the Logging Capacity Regional Employment and Innovation Corridor Project. So that's an initiative of Regional Development Victoria. It's really looking at particularly how do we build on what we think is an innovative corridor already between Macedon Ranges, Mount Alexander Shire and Bendigo, beyond as well, but particularly up the corridor. How do we build on the great minds and the great businesses that already exist in that corridor and get more of that happening? So that's what that project's about. It's in early days. We've got another discussion on that, workshopping that later this week. But a great initiative of the regional partnership, the Logging Capacity Regional Partnership, which we're of course a member of. The other ones I wanted to mention quickly, Mayor, if I may, Castlemaine Health Maternity Services first birthday celebration was just the other day. That was just a beautiful event. Obviously, they had some really challenging things they had to work through there, and they chose to do that and to bring back a bigger and better service. And the number of parents who were there with their kids who'd been born in the hospital, I think I don't get the number wrong, there was 50 babies born in the hospital since they reopened a year ago, and they managed actually 100 cases. So 50 went to Bendigo at the right time, which was what this was about, and 50 stayed and roamed and cared for there. And I know there was one mother talking that she went to Bendigo because things got tricky, but she was back the next day, back in Castlemaine Health, and was really appreciative of the service she got in both places. So it seems like it's been a big challenging year for them, but they've done a great job by all accounts from what I was hearing. So it was lovely to be able to hear that. The last one I'll mention, and comes back to what Councillor McClure was contemplating earlier, is to do with this challenge that we've got of increasing costs and capped income for the large part of where we get our money from, which is rates is a fairly large portion of where we get our income. And Rural Council Victoria acknowledges that that's a challenge, and one of the projects that we're dealing with, as you know, I'm a member of that, we did a tender assessment on a consultancy that is going to explore what are all the really smart income generating ideas that councils from, not just in Australia, not just Victoria and Australia, but overseas as well. So we'll be looking into New Zealand, we'll be looking into England, we'll be looking into America, about who's got great income generating ideas that can work in rural councils in Victoria, and then what's needed to make that happen. So it won't be for want of trying that we come up with some new ways of exploring that anyway. So I'll let you know more about that as it progresses, but that'll be kicking off very soon there. So happy to answer questions always, but that's it for me.
Any questions of the CEO? Anybody? Righto. We have one urgent special business.
I'm ready.
Councillor Nia.
I wish to move an item of urgent special business to consider a representative on behalf of the Mayor at the MAB State Council meeting. I'm ready.
And you need to put the name in.
Yeah, but I got it. I do a second one.
Oh, right. I'll second it. Councillor McClure. Sorry.
That's all right. I didn't know how to do it either.
Yep. Those in favour? Carried.
All right. Within that, I move to nominate Councillor Tony Courting to be the substitute at the MAB State Council meeting on 24th of June 2022.
Second up. Councillor Gardner. Did you accept Councillor Courting?
Happy to represent you at that meeting, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Gardner. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. There is no confidential items. That would then bring us to a meeting close. Thank you for your attendance.